Well, let's move ahead for one of the most interesting topic again, which is innovation or survival. Well, every organization goes through this. When it comes to innovation, the BFSI industry is always seen as the front runner. But amid the economic downturn, how are the financial leaders maintaining a balance between innovation and sustenance is always a matter of debate. Yes, in this panel, leaders will discuss how the BFSI leaders are bridging the innovation gap within the budget with relevant and timely collaborations. For moderating another panel of session, let's call upon Mr. Arun Subramanian, co-founder sharpsell.ai as a moderator for the upcoming panel discussion, which is going to happen on stage. And joining him on stage will be SivaKumar Nandipati, Chief Digital Officer, Fedfina. Can we have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Joining them on stage will be Rupam Mazumdar, Head Digital Lending, Edelweiss Retail Services. And I shall also like to call upon Anjana Rao, Chief Strategy Officer, IndiaFirst Life Insurance. Joining them for the panel discussion will be Haryaksha Ghosh, Chief Digital Officer, Aadhaar Housing Finance. Can I invite Mr. Kiran from Aadhaar Housing Finance to please come on stage and join the panel discussion?
So, just a quick correction. I am from Edelweiss Housing, not Aadhaar. So.
Apologies for that, I think. Yeah. Okay, so thanks a lot, all of you, for coming on this panel, and good afternoon, everybody. So I think what we'll do now is, I think we're waiting for Anjana to join us. I heard that she's already in. She should be here any minute. There she is. No, that's not Anjana. False alarm. Okay. So I think we'll start off with our discussion here, where we're going to talk about what we are doing as part of digital, especially when it comes to a place where we are saying, hey, is it something that's going to help us really move forward? Are we doing certain things for survival? And what exactly is going on? So with us, we have three of our panelists here who are experts with, in their own fields. And I think as part of this discussion, the objective that I want to take is to draw certain inferences and examples from what they have, seen in their professional careers, and I think, hey, hi, Anjana. Yeah. So the idea would be to kind of see if we can kind of elicit as much of practical real life examples from each of them, so that we can kind of draw some parallel with respect to what has actually happened in their own professional career in terms of them implementing some of these strategies. And see if we can, look at how they relate to us. So maybe I'll just start off with how we're going to structure this discussion. So I think we're going to structure this discussion, and broadly what we're going to talk about in two key axes. So one is in terms of where are we really looking at some of these initiatives and innovations happening. So we're going to look at it as one, what is happening with respect to your transactions, back office, etc. Second, what is happening with respect to credit. And third is what is happening with respect to sales and service, where the communication as customer is going on. So maybe we'll just kind of spend some time on each of this to understand how, how some of these changes are going on. And we'll also kind of, while we talk about each of this, we'll also talk about, how some of these initiatives get started and what are people doing to get these initiatives driven. Which means how are you even getting it started, how are we going to get cross-functional buy-in, how are we getting this going is one. Second is how are we going to tie it up to the personalization journey that all of us are talking about to the end customer. And third is what is the playbook that they have to keep ahead of the curve at all points of time. So that's just some secret sauce that we'll want to hear from all of them on. So maybe we'll start from Anjana. So maybe Anjana, so if maybe you can just start off with a quick your thought process on what is the innovation that you see happening with respect to the sales and service part of it.
Sure. I mean, the first leg of, I would call it...
and maybe, Anjana, maybe can we just start with a one-line introduction of all of us before we start off? Maybe you can start off with what you do so that people can relate to...
yeah. Sure. Hello, I'm Anjana Rao. I'm working for IndiaFirst Life Insurance. I drive innovation and digital for IndiaFirst Life. Now, coming to your question as to what is it, so the way I look at it, there was a point in time 5-6 years back where everybody was wanting to strive for a paperless process and enable the feet on street with a solution which enables a paperless process. I think now everybody is looking at how do I smartify the solution? How do I make the solution intelligent so that the feet on street doesn't, so they are also getting an air cover from the organization which is over and above the competence which he or she brings in. And that air cover could be in terms of every time he's creating a lead, can I provide him what kind of propensity of conversion does this lead have? So when he looks at the lead score, he decides what are the next actions. And according to the lead score, can I provide him what are the next best actions which he or she should do on that lead? And if at all there is a personalized document or a brochure which needs to be sent to him based on the profile that has been captured by the field sales, can we personalize the content to the customer rather than sending a very straight-jacketed content? Now, this content is not personalized just as a name. It is also personalized to the profile, what kind of product, what kind of solution can be pitched to this individual, and what kind of interventions would be required from an organization's perspective if he happens to be in a zone where the propensity is low to convert, and if he happens to be a zone where the propensity is high to convert. So these are few instances.
Sure, thanks. That helps. So maybe Kiran, if you can just talk about some of those, it's like do or die situations that you have seen in analytics per se, because I think it's like when we were talking with Kiran, off the stage, and we said, hey, Kiran, we'll also talk about how we're going to, sell some of these projects internally. Kiran said, hey, that's not something that I do, and he had very interesting thoughts on how analytics is looked at today. And I think maybe Kiran, I'm preempting you there, but if you can just talk about how analytics is transformed, maybe that would be a great start to this.
Okay, so my name is Kiran. I lead the analytics function at Edelweiss Housing. So analytics, if you think about it, is a very old function, right? So the oldest analytics probably is the simple average. That's also an analytical function. It was pretty much the same till probably the beginning of the century. Then it probably became a little bit more advanced, and then about till probably 2005, it was, in a business sense, it was actually very. So the whole idea was you would have descriptive, prescriptive. Like they have this idea. So basically, you give me data, I will find an insight for you. Over the last few years, because now computing power, storage costs, everything have gone down. It has actually, and of course, the democratization of data science. It is now actually also about microtransactions or transactional. And what I mean by that is, and so if I call myself the head of analytics. I don't use the word AI very willy-nilly. Yeah. So it's because, but nowadays, if you think about it, these functions, which are typically considered human intelligence functions, like vision, language, creativity, they are also being addressed by computer programs or machines. I'm sure you have heard of ChatGPT, but there are, which is like basically you telling me write a poem, he writes a poem, right? It's a machine that does it in the end. So, but there are also things like typically, the regulator asks you to mask certain information. Can you mask it without human intervention, or can you mask it 90% of the time without human intervention, right? So this is where now the analytics has moved to, and which is where we are somehow moving towards replicating human functions, human intelligence functions, via machines. So you said a do or die situation. So I think in lending, the do or die problem is whom to lend. That is if you can crack that, you will make money. If you fail at it, you will lose. You will go out of business. And this credit lending problem is the oldest problem that has been solved by analytics. It is also the lowest hanging fruit. But so almost everybody knows about the bureau. That is essentially a probability of default model that is given to you as a number, instead of a number which says 0.6% chance of default. It tells you it's a 700 score. Right? It's just a marketability of. So it's a problem that has been solved long time ago. The earliest logistic reference was about 100 years ago. The first paper that I have read on logistic regression was written in 1990. It was a Goldman Sachs paper. But if you think about the adoption of scorecards in real life, in the Indian scenario, it is maybe in the last 5 years slightly better, but it was pathetic before that. And there are many problems here. Typically, there is always the credit versus risk conflict. There is always this conflict of interest. And how do you manage that? Many times risk will not believe that you will not do better than the human there. And the sales guy doesn't want to anyway change the way he's doing business because life is good the way it is. धंधा तो कर रहे हैं ना हम लोग सालों से. Who are you? Which is not an unfair thing to say also. I would have done the same. Getting that implemented in any organization for the first time is the do or die thing that I have. So basically that would be the one thing.
Sure. Thanks, Kiran. So we'll come to the specific do or die things that you've seen shortly. Over to you, Shiva. So maybe a quick introduction and what you think is do or die, especially with the new avatar of Federal Bank that for which you're heading tech for.
Okay. Hey, I am SivaKumar. I'm the Chief Digital Officer for Fedbank Financial Services. This is a subsidiary of Federal Bank. And so we have 4 lending products. I would wanted to bring the real-time experiences which I have seen in the NBFC so that maybe I'll be able to add some value weight to this. Regarding in the sales and services piece, so sales let me take it and bifurcate into the new sales as well as the cross-sell and upsell. In the new sales, the digital piece or the innovation has been more important and productive. The reason is what we used to do with pamphlets and brochures in the physical marketing versus the specified customized targeting on the digital marketing, there is huge amount of transition. You would be able to reach more number of people, the specified targeted people right from your place, with less number of resources and able to achieve better targets. See, when you even compare from the cost perspective, it is real estate cost versus server cost, people working at a flexible schedules versus the fixed schedules, permanent dedicated force versus shared force. So there's a lot of cost advantages as well on the sales pitch for the digital marketing to acquire the new prospects via the stream. And in the service part of the sales, so account openings, even the RBI has said video KYC, you can do it. So it makes life easy of a lot of the people to get the things done. Now, I would take another example on the upsell. So we have one product, gold loan, okay, apart from the other products. So take a real-time example, so where most of you will be able to connect. The gold prices have gone up recently, and there is a lot of customers have their top-up eligibility. But if I'm sure that you will be able to gauge the demographic nature of the people who have taken the gold loan at tier 2, tier 3 cities. So it is very difficult to reach them, and when the gold prices have uplifted, all lakhs and lakhs of customers are eligible for the top up. Sending an SMS or email and all to those set of customers, I don't think so it will solve the problem. You would not get the upsell happening properly. So this time we have used the voice blast. with the customized voice blast, which has got 4x amount of the top-ups happened in the month compared to what it was average. So this was one use case which I wanted to bring to the attention. So the innovation is necessary, and it would become, it's no more luxury. It will be need and necessary. That's what I want to end it up.
Sure, thanks, Shiva. Yes, Rupam, maybe you can talk about how you see certain things happening with housing.
Hello. Yeah. So hello everyone. So I am Rupam. So I head product and innovations for Edelweiss SME Finance. So I think we all know we were hit by a tsunami 2 years back. That is Corona and the pandemic. And then we came to realize a lot of things. Okay. So now whatever we decide from a digital arena, so there are two basic things that we have to decide. One is to have a business model from a product perspective, from a system perspective, which will like lessen the gap or the bridge that we have with the customer. Okay, so we have to go to the customer for selling, sourcing, okay, and then also post selling and all. We have to be at their doorstep. So after that, the collections and all are not hampered also. So typically what happens is that what we have gone through is that during the pandemic, and as you know, like the collection agents and couldn't go to the customer directly. So what we did by innovation where there was some collection apps and all that we had. So we had to send the links to the customer, and then based on that, we had different modes of payment initiated from them. After that also, this whole adoption of mandate registration and all, your e-natches and all also increased, because we got a learning and then we are going ahead with that, so that if something else comes, then we don't need for a human intervention to have this whole processes stalled. Okay, everything can be automated and in a autopilot mode. Also, not only from the customer perspective, if you see our internal processes also, we all have systems and all. So you have to make those automated so that those are most efficient. So there comes the whole designing of the internal processes also. We have all heard about APIs and all, okay? So there are different data sources. There are different APIs that are available. You need not have any of your ops or sales guy punch in details which you can readily get from any of the APIs, okay? That way data is taken care of, okay? And also your processing TAT also decreases. In a way you get a competitive advantage in the market, okay? But one more thing that we need to take into account also here is that how to make these processes more efficient and OPEX driven. So we just can't go on integrating and all everything APIs and all. We have to be very judicious because we run on tight P&Ls and all. We have to see how we utilize the budget and all for our innovation. So that possibly at the top of the funnel where data is needed for your customer profiling, and then later on for credit, okay, where we have automated scorecards and all in place, okay. Then whatever data we can get from a customer profiling, customer eligibility perspective, we like go for the API routes, okay. Then in the internal level, whatever we can get it done via manual, okay. Obviously, it comes as a trade-off, as I told you. Then we go for APIs for an automated one, and so that our journey takes less time. So this is how, like, whatever learnings we have had and how we design. So each and every product comes out with a different customer segment in mind. Then based on that, there is a different kind of system and processes that are in place. And whatever you want to do, so that your end, your start from sourcing to your dispersal is smooth in the least amount of time, and then also post your dispersal and all, your source, your collections are not hampered. Everything is automated on autopilot mode.
Sure. So I think we'll just start from what you talked about in credit. So I think especially for the three of you, it is credit score for underwriting in terms of, quickly processing loans. And I think for Anjana, it's about also giving out pre-approved offers. So what is happening in terms of assessing credit scores, and what has come in, which you would call as new, where you say, we are looking at credit fairly differently than what we used to before. So if you can just, so I'm just leaving it open to the forum. If we can just talk about what is happening today, which let's say didn't happen pre-COVID, because I think a lot of things changed during COVID. And why do you see this going in terms of the whole credit assessment part, and how it translates to what is going to reach the customer?
So from an analytics point of view, things don't change so much. The idea is still the same because I am trying to look at all the data that is there.
So maybe Kiran, just to add, when you say things don't change a lot, have the kind of data that comes in.
Yes, correct. So methodically things don't change, and the kind of data that is obviously now coming in is far more richer. Look at any digital stat for India on UPI, whatever. Like, all of it is data. So everything that, when you say everything, as the minute it becomes digital, it starts to generate data. And so that, if, for example, typical use cases which have been tom-tommed some time back is, if you install my app, I can give you a better credit score. I don't need a bureau score. Now, this is because then I have access to your app history. So for example, I am a customer who has, let's say, 3 trading apps on my phone. Right? This is information that is regularly shared with all, every time you give permission install app, this is shared. Now, does that correlate with a positive rate of or a higher rate of default or a lower rate of default? Right? This information was never available before. All you had was bureau scores and whatever local information. There will of course be more information coming in, especially now that it depends on the product. You have now far better ways to analyze textual data, which is typically, there was this credit memo which is written 2 years ago, but I can't use it as data because it's in English, which is not well written, localized, could be in another language. But those problems will be, these are the problems for the short term to be solved.
So as we speak here and now, I can say, one has started exploring what could be the other avenues besides the application form information which I have, besides the intelligence which I have built, basis the application forms which I have processed as an insurance company for a given profile to come up with a score and say that this I predict could be a highly risky policy to cover. But now the sources have increased. There are so many alternate sources of data which are being considered, but then it requires lots of policy changes, the way we look at our policies, the way we look at, how we are going to accommodate these risk scores within our policies, and then say, okay, fine, now I'm going to amend this, because it's in the process of, it's happening as we speak, is what I can say. We are acquiring capabilities where we can read from images and apply that, which was not possible earlier. So the options, the touch points, the mediums of information access and processing to arrive at a decision score have increased. But how they are going to they're definitely going to transform. But here and now, we are all exploring how it is happening. Then and there, maybe we will have a model in place here.
While my colleagues have spoken about data cuts on the risk modeling and all, I'll add few more points actually. So what we realized was there is good amount of uses of artificial intelligence which can come out and emerge and tell you. So something like people with these demographics, say suppose the men at this age group between X to Y, 30 to 35 in this region with CIBIL score nil or maybe 750 are prone to default 30-35%. Something of this sort of inferences have already come out with uses of the data modeling, which we would not have seen. So that's one good insight which has happened. And I would also want to bring, since he said, Arun said COVID-related issue, COVID time onwards. So the most important thing which we faced was moratorium and ECLGS. I'm sure most of you also have the loans, and during the moratorium which happened in 2020, when you have used and availed moratorium for 3 months or 6 months, the end tenure has increased by 3 to 4 years. So that was a really big problem for us in making customer understand what has happened. So when there are too many dynamics, what I realized from there, that exercise, when there are too many things change very quickly, the communication has to be strengthened and to make transparency in the business.
So yeah, so I want to place my comments like under three headings. Typically what, then how, and then when. So by what we mean like what sort of data you need. So as you know, there are typical traditional sources of data. One is like what Kiran mentioned, bureau or civil, okay. Then there are bank statement data and all GST data. And there is another type of mode of data which is coming up with alternate sources of data, which everybody is like mentioning here. So like possibly like we have different email plugins nowadays, okay. So from those email plugins, you can have direct access to the customer emails where you get to know, like for a salaried customer, what is his salary, credits and all, and what are the EMIs that he is servicing, okay. So alternate sources of data is a thing that is taking up space in nowadays, and it will be a primary source of evaluation criteria in days to come. Now, secondly, I come to like how you want to utilize the data. One is simple. You have your products and schemes. You have, as per the policies, different credit policy parameters. So there you have to use them. For example, your CIBIL cutoff will be 720. Okay. Then from CIBIL, your CIBIL score comes. You typically do a match and then decide whether the customer for that application is a go or no go. And then there comes another factor like for reconciliation purpose and all, which is typically not only related to credit but risks on the whole. Okay. Like from reconciliation, what I mean to say is that suppose for a salaried customer, you have three sources: your bank statement, his pay slip, and EPFO data. Okay. Like from the three only you can gauge his income. Okay, his salary, and do a reconciliation. Like typically for our SME segment, you have banking data, you have GST data. From GST, you have invoices data. And from banking, you see the actual credits and debits. So you can reconcile different data sources. And this is also important from a risk perspective also, and gives you a holistic view of the customer also, what's happening. And then third, and the most important part is your like when, like there can be different data sources, you integrate APIs and all get data. But what is your GTM? You can't wait for 6 months to go live with a product, or rather you can't also afford to go live in a day, because this is related to your credit and risks also. So you have to think about GTM. So for that, you need to have a flexible business rule engine or BRE, what we call, in place. Like it should be dynamic also, so that once each and every time you plug in different data sources, it can be readily configurable and you can pick the data up from day one once the integration is complete. Okay. So this is how I place my discussion.
Sure. So when you speak about, for example, you're talking about how GTM becomes important. So I'm going to, combine this with the other thing that we wanted to discuss, which is on how are we taking a call on driving these initiatives and how are we going to get a buy-in. So could each of us talk about specific examples of initiatives that we either we took but they panned out the way we wanted, or we said we drop it midway because of either we couldn't get the buy-in or because they didn't align with some of the principles behind which we want to run these initiatives, which is faster GTM, ensure that some of these existing systems didn't collapse, or no redundancy, etc., etc. So when, can maybe we'll start with you, because I'm just taking it forward from what you had said. So can you give us examples of initiatives that you thought were wonderful but didn't go through because it didn't fit into the principle of ensuring that GTM has to be real fast?
Yeah, so typically as of now, what has happened for the projects that I've undertaken, so perhaps GTM is an important factor that I told. So there has been lapses, okay. So typically again stems back to the factor whatever GTM I have considered in the very first phase, okay, whether I was correct in ascertaining that GTM or not. Like for the scorecards and all, as I told you, whatever new products, like for an example, I want to mention to you, from a Edelweiss perspective, we are following a credit light asset model, okay. So we are in the co-lending arena where we are there with 4 or 5 major banks as of now. So in this co-lending, your CLM2 model, it is very imperative that we go on onboarded with those banks as soon as possible. So there are different products that are in place. So, and there are different variants of those products in place. Okay, so for an example, we are tied up with your IDFC First Bank. Okay, so they have different products. We are tying up with Standard Chartered. They have exactly the opposite products. Okay, the customer segments are also different. Now, once we had like made this model, a dynamic BRE and all, whatever we told, a wholly config-driven model, then our GTM for these things haven't been hampered. So we have gone live with these banks within like 1 month, all the variants combined. In another aspect, what I want to tell you is that there have been GTM have been not met in some of our initiatives that we have taken. For example, typically CQIC data fetch. Okay, so that is also like not like we hadn't preempted because the data that used to come there. So there are different like factors that we needed to consider. Some of times like I won't say the GTM was meant, but yeah, the holistic solution in terms of your actual implementation and adoption. So the adoption was not fully 100%. So that was a typical challenge, which I think will come later on. So yeah, that is what I want to.
I would keep my bet little on the artificial intelligence because this is what I have identified was most of the people are getting confused with analytics with artificial intelligence. To do artificial intelligence or deep learning or machine learning, we need to have lot of data, and unfortunately, we did not have so much amount of the data if you actually go for the past records and see it. So you end up doing analytics in the name of artificial intelligence. Maybe if you start capturing the data from now, you would get in very valuable insights for the artificial intelligence, which has to be way forward. Otherwise, it ends up, even though the data goes through the modeling, it becomes an analytics or rich valuable analytics experience. That's it.
So I'm not a sales guy, so or I'm not in sales, so not exactly the answer to this on the sales side, but I am a sales guy for all internal customers. And the hardest challenge for analytics for a long time has been adoption because of said reasons. Except in the last few years, it has become a lot easier because there is so much marketing going around. So you will hear about analytics or the word probably every 10 minutes once in your every day, right? So people, so that buy-in is now there because if you think about it, it's a very new field in some sense. There were some very specific applications that it was very popular with, but not necessarily for different applications. So anyway, my challenges have been, there have been many projects where we built something, the exact business requirement have been done, but the end of the product was, oh, but this problem. So always the analytics challenge will be that this is the business problem. What is the mathematical approximation that I'm bringing out of it? And as long as that approximation is close enough, you will get a solution. But despite best efforts, sometimes it doesn't happen. So typically that would be the.
Yeah, so just before we go to Anjana, where is the gap? Is it in terms of business coming in with like new?
It can be business not knowing what they want. It can also be, you can only do so much given the data that you have. It can also be you being not good enough, but okay, I'll take that out of the picture. But so typically these three would be the highest factors.
So I think the typical people wanted to be fast follower than the first mover, because first mover has higher chances of losing while it comes with the first mover advantage. So basically at the management level or somewhere, keeping big bets on new innovative technologies, people struck their shoulders. But because when you don't do anything, your hope and your fear are equal. So obviously fear dominates the hope. But when you do something, your hope becomes higher and your fear becomes lower. That's the trick for that.
So one thing that I know works is the close integration of analytics with the actual business problem. So many places you will see analytics teams, or in fact almost in every place, analytics teams will be away from the business, and that means they solve the problem given to them, but a large part of my job is to go to business and find out their problem. And what I was talking about the approximation of the business problem to the mathematical solution of it.
Yeah, I mean, I will echo, I mean, limited data sets has been a common problem. I mean, like, it limits you from what kind of analysis and what kind of accuracy can you associate with the scores that you're coming up with. With regards to the adoption challenge which was posed, yes, I mean, anything new that we launch, it has a challenge. The way people sitting at the head office look at a eureka moment and the way it gets translated, how it gets translated to the field force. You know, I mean, do we need to load them with a technology? Look, you know, this is machine learning. No. I mean, what is relevant to you? You will be able to compute your incentive every time you close your deal. You know, it's there in front of you. You are getting a nudge, you know, which is quite contextual. How it is getting delivered is the job of technology, but you're getting a nudge which is very contextual, and you're getting it when you need it the most. So that's the relevance which when we bring into the adoption drives, we see a pull. Otherwise, yes, if it is one of the, you know, innovation solution, you know, this is going to do wonders. No, it doesn't work unless we establish how it is relevant for the end users. Yeah.
So in that flow, Anjana, can you also talk about one initiative where, which you have seen as, where you say, I started with a certain intent, it got executed reasonably well. I'm sure we'll leave the small slip-ups, where it got executed reasonably well and it also got adopted reasonably well. And we were at least, let's say, 75-80% of what we planned the end use would be. And maybe if we can talk about that and also stress a little bit more on what did we do to drive that adoption? Because until it translates down, I think any initiative, almost always is not a success.
Sure. So we wanted to make our activity management and the way the lead management happens in a more methodical manner. So we wanted to start tracking activities and then start leads, because unless you don't track the activities, you really don't know whether the feet on street is actually, going and making an attempt to meet the branch people in our case. So what we started doing is, okay, fine, let's redefine how we do. So even before we do lead management, let's start tracking the activities. The way we linked, how do you make it? There's always a give and take that you need to do. So every sales guy is always, he has to raise multiple, reimbursements for the travel that he does. But the way we did it is every time you visit a branch, so there is a map, there's a daily regime. You define your daily regime, you're going to go to these many branches. Every time you go, wherever you go, you do a check-in, check-out. We are measuring the number of kilometers that he has traveled, and automatically a claim is getting raised on his behalf. So that is like, I'm giving you something so that you can start adopting this. Then tracking those activities also, what type of activities is he doing, what is the frequency of the branch visits, and how it is resulting into leads, right? Which are the branches where even after 5 visits, if it is not leading. So those insights is what you started getting when you started capturing activity to leads and then started getting those data in front of you. Okay, fine, my funnel, I'm doing everything possible, but still I'm not getting. So then the effectiveness of my activities is a question mark. So then what do I need to do to improvise those activities? So those are the insights. So yeah, now coming to adoption. So we started focusing on what are the advantages to them if they do it. It's not about a policing tool. It is also helping them to, take down the most cumbersome work which any feet on street has to do, which is raising all the travel conveyance. So that's how,
That's interesting. And yeah. So maybe, Shiva, you can talk about something, the question is, any initiative that has gone reasonably well and what did we do to ensure that it gets adopted, till the last
I feel voice and AI put together is a deadly combination. Okay, any idea how many words you guys speak per day? Any guesses? Approximately?
How many bots?
How many words you speak per day?
Words per day, okay.
So when we search, even based on the male versus female and India versus other countries, it varies from 1500 to 7500 votes. So, but what I wanted to say was your mobiles, if you have Alexas, Siris, everything is listening what you are speaking. Each and every word is a command. You don't do so many actions every day from morning to night, but you keep on speaking and each and every word is a command. You have seen multiple times you spoke about something and the ad appears on your mobile phone, right? This has been, and it will go deeper and deeper. So that will make us more careful what we have to speak also. But I feel voice and AI has a life to go in the company and enterprise. The companies which take it up faster, there are higher chances of doing better.
I fully vouch for it, sorry Arun. I fully vouch for it. Voice as a user interface as compared to any other interface, what we are giving to the field force, if we start giving them all the enablers with voice as an UI option, I mean, they are definitely going to lap onto it as compared to the GUI part of it.
Fair, but any specific examples sure that you can talk about?
There is one research actually which says
No, something that you have implemented or you have seen.
we have implemented a lot actually, starting from getting KYCs done from the customers to informing them on the top-ups, getting them registrations, helping them on the logins. So the multiple places we have to use the voice bot because gold loan customers, because they were spread across from tier 2, tier 3 cities with multilingual, I felt voice and multilingual is only way to do it. You will still have an apps coming in where there will not be any pages. There will be only one voice button. You click on it and ask what is my loan outstanding. No, where a loan outstanding bold though, and it will show it. Those days are not so far, definitely.
Yes.
I can tell you about two projects, okay? One has been a real hit and one hasn't, was not a hit, but then we had to work on that. So this happened both the projects got rolled out at the same time, in November. So one was API-based video PD solution and one was a API-based CKYC fetch solution, okay? Typically whatever he was referring to KYC data fetch. Now what we see is that for each and every project I broadly classify that into three categories. One is your ideation design, then second comes your delivery, and third comes your adoption. And adoption is the most important part. So they came live at the same time. So ideation and from a design perspective, I can tell you as I did the same. So CKYC one was a more smoother one and its UX and all was also far better than the other one, video PD one, okay. Delivery nearly it was about time we got it delivered. And when it came to adoption and when I saw the adoption numbers for the first month, I was really surprised. For video PD we got about 80% adoption. For CKYC we got about 40% adoption, okay. Now, and CKYC is really seamless. When you have the PAN number, just use that, click a button, you get the CKYC documents. Then when we had the trainings and all calls, and obviously for both, as you can know, the users were different. For CKYC, it was at the sourcing login funnel. It was the sales guy who was doing. And for video PD, it was a credit person who was doing. So when I had the calls, then I got a real surprise that actually it was our fault only. Because in the ideation phase, we didn't give them enough clarity as to why CKYC is important. So they were we already have taking KYC documents from the customer. So why is it needed? So hence, then what happened is that we then got over calls and quickly had zonal level, each and every RM level trainings and all. We made the decks, the PPTs and all. We made videos and circulated over WhatsApp also, so that it goes to each and every RM at the ground level as to why it is needed and what we are doing. Then once they had the full clarity, and then now we are clocking as per the expectations. So this is how in the cycle, we always focus on delivery, obviously ideation design, but also for the end user, we have to give them enough clarity to each and every user who is going to use that solution. Otherwise, the initiatives fail. This is a perfect example.
Sure. Thanks, Rupam. So Kiran, maybe I think this time up part is flashing there. So maybe we'll just go around taking our final thoughts on what we see as changed with respect to technology and the direction that you see this moving forward? Maybe we'll start with you.
Okay, I feel what has changed is the speed of execution, the speed of adoption, the demand. It has been proactive. Earlier, you had to like sell the idea to the management, but now it is like there is an easy acceptance of ideas, and there's a faster pace of execution, is what I feel. This is a change.
Yeah, I think I agree that the rate of change has, it's shot through the roof. Simple example, and why would this have happened? The hypothesis would be to the adoption of UPI post-COVID, because everybody started doing digital, and now it's like I don't carry cash. Like I have $20 in my wallet right now. But if you look at it, because I trust technology and I've seen the impact of technology, and I'm like an urban, well-traveled, hopefully a well-traveled person, so on and so forth. But this is now very evident even at the, let's say in a remote branch where people are using UPI. So they have bought into how there is some benefit to using technology. So the adoption also, the speed of adoption also will be increasing.
Sure. Thanks, Kiran. Sure.
One factor I see is the convenience which is expected by people. Everything is becoming a function of that. Seeing it from any part of the technology, the convenience or the comfort factor the customer expects. And not just that, they have the younger generation, when you see they have lesser and lesser patience than what we were. Of course, we also have lesser patience than what our parents were. But with that, they need higher trust and more transparency as well, along with the convenience. So everything will become a bifactor of these three things.
So from a business perspective, see, technology is no longer a support function. It is a business enabler, okay? So we are going ahead with different journeys and not directly going to the customer, having different all products launched in the minimal time possible. Okay, that's all from the business front we are doing. Now from the process front, as they all mentioned, it is more from like the easiness of use factor or the convenience factor. Like for an example, what Kiran mentioned also, see, I just have forgotten the last time I visited an ATM. Typically to say from that factor, it's not only limited to loans or like mutual funds or any particular VFSI industry, it's part and parcel of our life. So perhaps with now technology, we are doing things that we had never thought that could be done. And there are more things coming up, to say the least, for sure.
Sure. So thanks a lot, everyone, for adding your valuable inputs on this. I really like this discussion. I hope you folks also liked it and took some points away. So I think before we conclude this, we'll just open the floor to 2 questions for the panelists. So I think we have limited time, so we're going to restrict it to 2. So if any of you have any questions for the panelists, I think this is your time to throw them out.
Hi, myself Nishant Kumar from Reliance. So I'm also from the product side itself. So I'm having basic query is like, how do you ensure is like whatever you are developing is going to be delivered in a time-bound manner? And of course, since a lot of data security risk, there is a privacy, all those things are coming into the picture. Then how do you ensure like your product, what you are going to deliver within a time limit is going to be signed off from all the stakeholders, right from the risk compliance, sales, marketing, operations, and all the stakeholders?
So essentially, if it is such a critical initiative, it definitely happens to be a part of the your AOPs, right? And those AOPs have a clear-cut priority, which is seen equally by all the stakeholders who are involved, be it risk, be it IT, all the members in the value chain who have to deliver it. So, so once that clarity is set that this is the quarter, this is the time period by which this has to be delivered, then everybody has to start working on it. So the buy-in has to happen at that level where everybody accepts, yes, I'm agreeing to this plan, that this initiative, unless all the stakeholders don't give equal priority to that initiative, definitely it will, I mean, there'll be cracks between the table and things will slip off. But if all the stakeholders are aligned, I mean, automatically it gets a higher priority. It's the framework which governs, right, the initiatives that decides whether what would be the fate of that initiative is how I would like to say.
So I think there is one more way of solving this also. I also faced this. So a process framework, if it can help you, while there are two ways you can form the committees. We always think of operational committee and form it to the selective set of the few departments and people where we develop it up and take it out, and then finally we hear from the other set of the people, ये तो भी करना है, ये तो ऐसा नहीं है, ये सब था. So one kind of solution which we thought was we created something called stakeholder committee also along with OPCO and STACO. So operational committee and stakeholder committee, where operational committee keeps on working on this, and stakeholder committee is where once in a month you are informed to them what is happening, and then it's on the mails as well. So then they should not actually ask after a while if it is not done, because they were kept well informed every month on month. So that should be process problem which can be solved.
Okay. One subsequent question to whatever you answered is like there is two things. One is like we are developing the product. Second thing is like the product which is already delivered into the market. So there again we cannot avoid it, like there is a chances of coming some production issues and all, right? So how do you balance between these two? Because even though you have frame out the product, but same technology team is going to work on both of the aspects. So how do you balance between these two so that your running product which will also not get impacted even though you are prioritizing for the new product?
So, I mean, again, it depends on what kind of company you are. But let's say you're a decent sized company, you will typically have some kind of a framework in which we operate. We typically use the agile framework, and what we have done heavily is also invested in a low-code platform for our products or the digital side of it. So the agility that comes naturally with this low-code platform is that we can basically, if you think about your people, policies and products, you can change them very quickly, or you won't change people quickly, but people change themselves, but you don't suffer because of them leaving. So having that platform, I think, was a very key decision for us.
So to add on to what Kiran mentioned, so yeah, we are following an agile technology. We have a low-code platform, and the beauty of that part is that we have fortnightly sprints. Okay, so a major chunk of development is divided into sprints, and then all the stakeholders who have waited on the functional document before we have gone for development, we show them like whatever development is done. Okay, so sprint by sprint, and also one major point is that from a delivery perspective also, so that many times what happens is that you think of having to make an elephant and end up making a giraffe. Okay, so in the beauty of sprint is also that you have scrum calls every day. Okay, you are following that. So from the development perspective also, we from business, from product are there. So whatever queries, clarifications they have, those get ironed out in the scrums that happen. Okay, and a clear visibility of the product, of the progress of the particular initiative, of that enhancement is being tracked upon. So hence these are some of the things that we do so that our GTMs are maintained and we end up actually having the product that we thought about to develop.
Sure, no worries. I think we are not going to be hanging out. Everybody's going to be around, and you can always interact one-on-one with all the panelists.
And I think we can conclude on that part, right? Okay, cool enough. Yeah, thank you so much. Can we have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for such a phenomenal panel discussion on innovation and survival. Well, now I shall request Arun Subramanian to come forward and felicitate all our panelists with a token of memento. Requesting Mr. Arun Subramanian, co-founder sharpsell.ai, to come forward and felicitate Anjana Rao, Chief Strategy Officer, IndiaFirst Life Insurance, with a momentum. I'll request Mr. SivaKumar Nandipati, Chief Digital Officer, Fedfina, to please come forward. And accept the momentum. Thank you so much for your precious time. I'll request Rupam Mazumdar, Head Digital Lending at Edelweiss Financial Services, to please come forward and accept the momentum. Thank you. Requesting Mr. Kiran Joshi, Head of Analytics, Edelweiss Housing Finance, to please come on stage and receive the momentum. Thank you so much. Thank you all the panelists for giving such a time for us from your busy schedule. Thank you so much for gracing this event. And now I shall request upon Dr. Ravi Gupta, Editor-in-Chief, the Banking and Finance Post, and Founder and CEO, Elets Technomedia, to come forward and felicitate Mr. Arun Subramanian, Co-Founder, sharpsell.ai, with a token of momentum. Can everybody please, all the panelists, come center stage for a group photo, please?